Hi, this is Brendan Davis from Bedrock Games and the Bedrock blog, and I'm here with Dion for another episode of Wuxia Weekend. And tonight we're discussing the film Magnificent Warriors. This is a 1987 movie starring Michelle Yeoh and Derek Yee. It's also got a number of other familiar faces, and it's sort of really intense action movie set during the Japanese occupation. I don't know, Dion, you had done a review of it on the Shaolin 36 Chamber site, correct? And so,
yes, I did it in one of their forums called the Mutual Reviews, monthly Mutual Reviews, where everyone takes they give you a topic and everybody takes a film and writes about it.
And so I guess why don't we lead with if you remember, because I think this was 2017 if I'm looking at the correct link here. What was your take on it at the time when you saw it then?
I love the movie because it has a strong female lead in it. I thought it was a great film that showcased Michelle Yeoh's talent, and she uses a whip, so that was a little different too. But I really liked the movie. I thought it was great.
And also, I noticed in your review, you focused on 3 fights. So do you remember the 3 fight scenes that you focused on in that review, or is it been too long?
No, the first one was when Michelle Yeoh's character, she's fighting the village bandits. She goes into a town, and she's taking this guy who's a gun runner into a town, and the gun runner is shot dead, and she's trying to get paid. I thought it was like a really awesome fight because she shows off her skills as a kicker. She uses her whip, and she's able to escape unharmed from a whole large group of men by using the whip to set off an explosion. But I thought it was a really an excellent showcase. It's the very first fight, and it's an excellent showcase of her skills.
And I agree with you. It really sets up the style of the whole movie too, because like those kicks, it's the kind of kicks where they kick the person, they get launched. You know, they fly through rails, and there's a bunch of that throughout the whole movie, and so all the action feels very sharp, powerful, quick, and just energetic. And so I think that's that scene that I had the same reaction when I first watched the movie. When it got to that scene, that's what I was like, okay, this is a good movie. This is the kind of action I like.
It kind of set up the tone of kind of being like an Indiana Jones type of movie. There's not like a whole bunch of mazes and trying to find a relic, but you get a feel of adventure from this.
Yeah, it definitely has that action adventure type vibe to it. I think you mentioned Indiana Jones in your review because of the whip, which I think is a pretty sound comparison. What was the second fight? That was the ambush at her house when she was returning home, and her
Oh yeah, her grandfather sets her up, which I thought was pretty funny. But her grandfather is also a rebel, and he was an agent like over 20 years ago.
And he's played by Ku Fung too.
Yes.
There's a lot of Shaw Brothers faces in this movie.
Yes, and that's another reason why I enjoyed it so much. I love Ku Fung a lot. He's like one of my favorite villains. But this time he gets to play a former hero, and he sets his granddaughter up. Their little home is ambushed by Chinese soldiers, and it's all a ruse to get her to fight for her country. And my favorite line is at the end of this huge fight where, you know, she's taking out men left and right. I don't think she kills anybody in this fight, but she's taking them out left and right. And my favorite line at the end is, all you had to do was tell me when, what time. Like, he set up this whole entire ruse to force her into helping her country, but she was already willing. And she was like, you just had to tell me when or where and what time.
And you mentioned that she used the grappling hook in that fight, which was, you know, again, it's kind of like the whip. It's a similar type thing, but it's almost used more like a rope dart in this fight sequence. So I thought that again that was another scene that really stuck out to me too, because that was where you really see a lot of the athleticism on her part, I think. And it's just, again, this is like early Michelle Yeoh, back when I think wasn't she being credited as Michelle Khan at that point? Was that the name that she was going by on the credits? I can't remember, but it's
I don't remember.
But it's very early in her career, so like you just I think her athleticism here is particularly good. And the third fight was the gambling den one, right? That was with what was the name of the character played by Ng?
The character was Chin Chin, and she's played by Lao Chin Dai.
But the con man character, did he have a name, or did he not even have a name?
I don't think he had a name.
But it was Richard Ng. He's like a kind of more comedic type, and
right.
And he's in the gambling den with the loaded dice, right? That's the scene, correct?
Yeah, he's with the loaded dice, and he's trying to cheat these other gamblers out of everything they own, and at one point they kept smashing the dice and revealing that the dice was loaded until they came to the final one that they used. But Chin Chin, she's like really tiny and petite, and she just looks like this pretty princess, and like she's not going to be able to do anything. And then she kind of starts talking, and you could tell she's feisty, but you really don't. Well, I didn't believe the first time that I saw it that she would be able to like hurt a fly, and then she like takes down everybody in the gambling den, and she saves the con man, and he ends up getting involved in this whole story. But I thought that she was really cool because she looks strong in her fight scenes too. Like she was a good, almost a sidekick for Michelle Yeoh's character, even though she's not technically a sidekick. But they played off of each other very well in the movie, and I liked how her kicks were strong also, and I thought that she did an excellent job. I'd never seen her in anything before, so I was really impressed with her.
Yeah, she was good in this. I don't think I've seen her in anything else. I keep thinking that I recognize her from something, but when I looked at her Hong Kong movie database page, I don't think I've seen the other movie she's in. I like the banter between her and the con man when they're sort of talking about the morality of what's going on and who's wrong and who's right, and it's just all this wordplay around it. And again, I'm sure in translation some of that gets lost, but I think the general gist of it is pretty clear, where they're sort of it's just the twists and the turns in the conversation around, establishing, where the right and where the wrong are is really entertaining. And her expressions on her face, because she's kind of leading that conversation. She's the one sort of adjudicating all of his arguments, and he's trying to sort of trick her into just through words convincing her that he's in the right.
But she's this pretty smart cookie, and she figures out what he's doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that scene was great, and I think Robert Ng is definitely a great comedic actor. I mean, and he's the little smile in this adventure movie. He makes you laugh. Yeah,
no, he does a good job here, and I think it's a really it's the right character for him to play in this movie. I guess we can resume talking about the combat scenes and other aspects of the film, but before we do that, maybe we should talk a little bit about the characters in the movie. I mean, they're fairly simple because it's an action movie, so we don't need to get too deep into it. So we can maybe talk in terms of actors and actresses as well. But we spoke about the con man. What about the Derek Yee character? I think he was Sky 001. He was sort of like, he's
a secret agent, and I liked him, but he was always ready to kill someone without even thinking about what the consequences were. Like the one scene where they put the gas mask on the guy to see if it works, and they put the gas and they told him if he held his breath for 5 seconds that he'd be able to live, but he gets punched in the chest, so he's made to breathe. And Derek Yee was furious, and so he's ready to go and kill everybody in the room. But Michelle Yeoh's like, we have to find Yoda, so he completely forgets the plan.
Yeah.
But he had several scenes like that he was just ready, gung ho to kill.
Yeah, it's nice seeing Derek Yee in this kind of a movie, and with alongside Michelle Yeoh. It's I don't think there's another movie where they're together, is there?
I don't know.
I mean, it's possible they're in another film together, but I can't think of one. And so again, you will see a lot of with you see this with a lot of these movies, but this one in particular, you just see a lot of familiar Shaw Brothers faces. It feels like. I think Lo Mung was even like a minor character in this one.
Yeah,
right?
Lo Mung was one of the henchmen, as was Wang Zhengli was also there.
Yeah. So, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's all I was going to say.
Yeah. So I mean, I just remember seeing Lo Mung. I was like, oh, is that Lo Mung? Because it took me a moment to recognize him in the uniform and everything that he was wearing. So what about Yoda? Not Yoda. Was it Yoda? Is that how they pronounce his name? Or Yoda?
I wasn't sure. I thought I heard it 3 different ways pronounced in the movie, but yeah, whatever. I liked him. I liked his turnaround from wimpy character and being meek and mealy at the beginning to firing off the gun at the end of the movie. He totally did a 180, and I liked how his character went from weak to strong.
Yeah, he was kind of an interesting guy because he was sort of stuck in this position of he had to abide by what the Japanese want him to do, but he hits that breaking point when they're going to execute Michelle Yeoh's character and Richard Ng and Derek Yee, and you have that scene where everybody's tied to the posts, and it just keeps becoming this bigger line of execution victims, or they just add another post, another person, another post, but then public sentiment turns against the Japanese and even the archers, because the execution is with archers, not even with guns, but with archers, which just seems like a horrible way to die, and the archers come around and turn against the Japanese. So it's that's actually a pretty pivotal scene. Actually, that's kind of where the culmination of the rebellion in the film sort of takes place. But
right, and the townspeople start taking back their town.
Yeah. So what about? I mean, I guess we've weighed in on Michelle Yeoh's character. But any additional thoughts on her, on Ming?
I thought she was really cool. She was kind of like somebody that you would want to be friends with, at least from my opinion. You could tell that her and Derek Yee were falling in love by the looks that they gave each other. And I like the scene where the con man is complaining when they all decide they're going to fight together. And he says to Yoda and Chin Chin, you two are already lovers. Yeah. These two over here, Derek Yee and Michelle Yeoh, are going to be lovers. But I'm here all by myself. Are we all going to fight together, or are you just going to leave me out? And they all decide to fight together. And I thought that was for me, that was a real turning point in the movie where they all glued and gelled together and started fighting for one cause. And the rest goes on from there.
And I'm trying to think. So we talked about that. We talked a little bit about Chin Chin, right? I thought she was good too. I like Chin Chin, and I think the only other figure really worth discussing would be General Toga, who was sort of just like a looming figure in the movie. I don't feel like he did anything special.
No, he didn't do anything special. And I'm kind of confused at who he really was. Was he the big general that showed up at the end?
I thought that he was I thought he was the general that they defeated right before the very end, and then warned them that there was a large army coming.
He he was just there to be a looming figure, and he wasn't much of a villain because he didn't do really anything. So to me, the villain was the Japanese and not really him in particular. He did a lot of ordering, but not a lot of fighting.
No, yeah, I would agree with that. And I mean, it is one of those kind of movies where it's sort of like we're sticking it to the Japanese kind of film, right? It's like that kind of movie. Again, you know, there's a lot to discuss about this film, but one thing I wanted to talk about was maybe some of the more emotional elements. There is sort of a little bit of heart to the movie, I feel, where it has these moments where, you know, it gets a bit sentimental, kind of on a dime, like films in this style of movie tend to do. And I just didn't know if you had any thoughts on that, if you had any feelings about the maybe like any of the melodrama or the patriotic elements, or this. There's one scene that really stands out to me when the Japanese take the villagers hostage, and the locals have clearly kind of won the fight, but they take like 15 villagers hostage, and that's enough to rattle the rebellion. And as they're approaching the main characters, one of the guys that's sort of one of the archers in the lead there recognizes his mother in the group. He's like, "Mom," and then they brutally murder the mother. It's a little bit over the top, but it when you have to squeeze out a lot of emotion in 5 seconds, it kind of does the job.
Do it.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
It's like efficiency of drama.
Right.
But I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that, or?
Yeah, another scene that I enjoyed was getting to know the background of the three main characters: the con man, Ming, and Agent 1001, when they were all tied to the post, and they start talking to each other while one of the generals is trying to prepare for their execution. They're just having this conversation about who they are as people, and they're telling information that they gathered about each other. That kind of gets you more invested in the characters, because, well, for one thing, Derek Yee once wanted to be a doctor, and you hope that he lives so that he can become the doctor. And then Ming's character, of course, comes from a storied background of having famous military father and grandfather, and she got her revenge after her father was murdered. And then the con man is just a typical con man that, he had a rough upbringing, and stealing from others is all he knows how to do. But then at the end, the con man says, well, one of you is tragedy and one of you is happy. If you two get married and you have a boy and a girl, the boy should be named Grumpy, and then the daughter would be Happy. And then if you have a third child, you can name him after his uncle, meaning the con man. So that made their relationship better. And I was like, oh, that's so sweet. And, so that was an emotional moment for me.
No, I like that scene. I thought it was a clever way for them to reveal the backgrounds too, and I liked that.
Yes.
They kind of, that the con man had figured out who this guy was. He had figured out who he was, and she had figured out who he, the con man knew who she was, and then
right.
The special agent knew who he was, and she knew who the special agent was. So it was kind of a cool way to reveal all those details. What about? There was another part of the movie I wanted to talk about. Oh yeah, what about the blend of martial arts, guns, and like, I don't know what you would call it, like airplane action, just sort of action adventure type stuff.
Yeah, like I said in my review, I'm not exactly one for guns in movies. I'm more like the hand-to-hand combat and the more traditional use of other weapons like swords and long poles and all that. But I thought everything mixed together here very, very well. There are very few... I guess this isn't really a wartime movie, but a wartime rebellion type movie that I like. Like, I like Naval Commandos, and I like 7-Man Army. And I like this one as well. I thought it had a right mix of everything. They didn't rely too much on the guns, but the guns were important because it all started with a gun running operation.
Yeah.
And the time period that it is, you know, guns were becoming more and more important in warring. So, you know, it was necessary. And I thought having a plane involved was pretty cool because then Michelle Yeoh gets to fly a plane, which makes her a female pilot, which makes her really cool. Yeah. So I just thought it was like a really good mix of the three elements.
Yeah, because the guns do not feel overwhelming to me in this. And it was actually, on Hong Kong Movie Database, they classify it as bullet ballet, which is like gun fu type stuff. And I was kind of thinking about that. Like, I don't know if this really hits that level of gun action. Like, the guns are definitely there, and there's plenty of guns being shot, but it feels like most of the heavy displays of, you know, cool weapon action are using other types of devices, and that the guns are there to add an additional layer of danger. But like, it's not. I don't think you see Michelle Yeoh going around shooting guns that much in this movie, if at all.
No, I don't remember her shooting a gun. Derek Yee does. The con man does, but the rebels are more hand-to-hand combat and using. Michelle Yeoh is using her whip and a couple other weapons. But yeah, there wasn't a lot of gunplay in this, which is, I guess, the reason why I liked it. Everybody wasn't shooting up everything. It wasn't like, sometimes I think that in these movies, the gun action is gratuitous because people like to see things blow up. And in this, it wasn't all about that.
Yeah, I got that feeling too here. Like Yes, Madam had more guns on display
definitely
than this did, I think. And I mean, there are some similarities, but for the most part, I would say this is more adventure, more martial arts, and the guns just kind of feel like they're there to supplement the martial arts, to add some other dimension, and even get incorporated into some of the martial arts choreography, like in that opening sequence when they're using when the guy is firing the gun and then she kicks him and he goes through the railing. So what other aspects of the movie do you think were worthy of discussion before we get into our recommendation and rating?
Just the overall story. It was so simple and not hard to follow. Fong Ha-ong was in it too, from Shaw Brothers. He was one of the Japanese agents at the beginning that was tailing the con man who they thought was the secret agent. Oh,
yeah, that's right.
Just before, I didn't want to forget that. But I thought the story was so simple and easily enjoyable. And sometimes in these kinds of movies, especially when there's secret agent play going on, things can get convoluted and too confusing. But I like how they kept it simple and sweet.
Yeah, this was a fairly easy to follow plot, and I wasn't feeling so great today. And I had seen the movie before, but it had been, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years since the last time I saw it, and I wasn't feeling great, and I wanted to eat a bag of vegetable sticks. And when I'm watching a sub movie, I'm often hesitant to do that because I'm worried that I'm going to miss crucial plot points and things like that. But with this film, I didn't feel like I had to worry about, you know, eating vegetable sticks while I was watching it. I felt like I could manage the plot and the vegetable sticks. It definitely is easy to track, and I think that's, sometimes you want a little bit more from a story, but I think when you have action like this, it's better to keep it simple. I don't really want to be overwhelmed with a complicated story.
Agreed.
You know, so
the first time I watched it, I had thought that maybe the Yao character wasn't really the person that they thought he was, because he was kind of playing it kind of sketchy. Like, he was cooperating with the secret agent, but I thought that maybe he was a secret agent impersonating. The first time I watched it, he was impersonating the Yauda character, but it turns out that he was really the governor of the state, and he wasn't being impersonated. But the first time I watch it, you just don't know.
Well, he has that kind of a face. He's got that like the facial casting they do in these kind of movies, where he just he did not look like a trustworthy person.
No, he didn't.
And yeah, so yeah, I liked the storyline. I thought that it was easy to follow, but it fit everything that was going on. And I enjoyed the overall development of events in the movie too. I like how it culminates in that big rebellion in the city. What did you think of them burning down the city at the end rather than confronting or surrendering it to the Japanese?
I've actually thought it was pretty smart because they knew that they were outnumbered by the Japanese and their townspeople, so it's not like they had this major army that could fight back. Might as well make the town useless, because if they can't use it, they're not going to spend their time and energy and money to rebuild it. Yeah. So that was actually a smart idea.
Yeah, I agree with that. It was kind of an odd ending because when I first saw it, I thought there was going to be another big battle after. You know what I mean? I thought like the army was going to come and there would be this huge battle, but it was actually sort of just the epilogue of the movie. But I guess that's a little more realistic. Like, there's no way they could have handled that army without really giving them a hefty dose of plot armor or something. So
yeah, they all would have been killed if they had faced the army. So better burn it down, and you can rebuild it later.
Now, so for recommendations, ratings, what again? We work on a scale of 1 to 5, right? And no halvesies. What would you give this movie, and would you recommend it to people?
I definitely would recommend this movie to people. I give it a solid 4. I love the action. I love the strong female lead character and their kind of sort of sidekick. It wasn't romance heavy, but you could see a romance developing, and there was already one that was in play. But I think it was a great mix of a lot of different genres into one film. It was simple and uncomplicated, just an enjoyable, easy movie to watch. Yeah. You sit back with popcorn, or in your case, veggie sticks, chill out and watch a good movie with some good action in it.
Yeah, I would agree with the 4. I would definitely give this movie a 4. I think it's a really entertaining film. It's light. It's easy to watch. It's not complicated. The action is really good. I think the action is not only is it a combination of Michelle Yeoh's physical performance and the fight choreography, but also the way that it's edited, the way that everything's presented. It just kind of pops. I don't know. I just feel like I feel like my eyes hook on to everything that's going on in the action sequences, and I like that. I like when I can catch everything that's happening in the film, and I like when I feel like each movement to me looks impressive and punchy and full of energy, and I just got that sense with this film, and I feel like and maybe it's because just like the Michelle Yeoh is like super, like it's early on, so she's really trying to put on a good performance or something. But it just this movie is one of the ones that always stands out in my mind when I think of her, and I think of just how much I like the action sequences in this film. Like this one and the Wing Chun movie would be another that really stands out.
I like that one too. Yeah.
There's like if you're a fan of Michelle Yeoh, this is definitely one to check out. I think
you have to see this one, or you can't call yourself a fan.
Yeah. This is definitely worth checking out. She's got a lot of movies that are worth checking out, but this is one that I'd probably direct people to early on. So I would give it a 4 as well, and I would recommend it. And it is on Amazon Prime right now, so you can watch it without having to buy it if you have Amazon Prime. I have it on DVD. The DVD is in the other room, so I'm not gonna be able to fish it out right now and figure out the the exact version I have, but it's worth getting on DVD. It's one that I bought, and I was happy to buy it. And yeah, so we will I guess we will move on, and we will be back on next episode. We're gonna do Killer Constable next week, which I'm quite excited about. It's kind of a much darker wuxia film. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts before we get into the Killer Constable, Dion?
It's sad.
Well,
for me, it was sad. The ending was sad.
Yeah, I guess it is kind of a sad ending, and it's dark the whole way through, though. So
yes, no sunshine in this one.
No, it's almost a little bit like it's kind of got like a Dirty Harry vibe to an extent, doesn't it? Like if you like in the wuxia genre, but like
I can see it.
Yeah, it's got it's a cool movie. I really like it.
Me too.
So yeah, so we'll have fun talking about that next week, and yeah. So until then, we will talk to you later.